Hello everyone, welcome to my Evil Within, Akumu difficulty, no upgrade / keys walkthrough, and this is chapter 12, The Ride, and we are immediately in a boss fight right now, and this boss is known as the Heresy, and he's a very easy boss. I see a lot of people use the Magnum on this guy, but why the heck would you waste Magnum ammo on this guy, when the only weapons that you need are the pistol and the shotgun? And in the beginning, you need to shoot him once with the shotgun so that you can stun him and pick up the ammo that's up front, and then you need to come back over here and watch what he does. This move right here, he drags his pincers down the center of the bus, so you need to go to that opening over there to avoid it. And then this move right here, he will do either 2 or 3 stomps, and you got to move out of the way, otherwise you'll die. The camera will be affected by this move to show where he is planting his pincer, and if you want to avoid having your control taken away, you need to aim. This move right here gets me a lot of the times because I mistake it for his other attack animations, because he kind of does a very similar startup animation for most of his attacks, and that's what can get you killed sometimes. And then when he is shaking his belly, he's going to spawn these maggots. Use a grenade to get rid of them or use your explosive bolts. After he does that attack, he will always rock the bus back and forth. So you can use this time to pick up the ammo that these maggots will drop. These maggots will drop so much ammunition that you will be set for the rest of this chapter. And the fight is done, but we're going to have to fight Heresy again after we do another combat encounter. So just understand how his moves work and you'll be fine. On this recording, you will not see Heresy do one particular move, which is where he swipes his claws from side to side as a horizontal strike. In order to avoid that move, you have to go to the center of the bus and crouch. Kidman will warn you the first time he does that attack, and then when he does the attack again, Kidman will not warn you, so you gotta prepare for it. And we are now making our way over to the combat encounter involving the Haunted, and this is a combat encounter that trips up a lot of people, but it's very, very easy. There is a pattern to this, and you have to understand which enemies are going to go for you, and which enemies are going to go for your AI partners. The greatest thing about the AI on this section is that they cannot die. Joseph does not have a life bar, so you don't have to worry about your AI partners one bit, and they will help out a lot when it comes to dealing with certain enemies. So, in the beginning of this fight, there are going to be 3 enemies that have dynamite. They're going to try to climb onto the bus in order to kill you. Well, I'm going to stop that from happening by either killing them before they have a chance to get onto the bus, or killing them when they are on the bus. If you kill them while they're on the bus, they will always drop ammo. So you are prepared for this whole entire sequence when the enemies are going to be dropping ammo every single time they climb onto the bus. And this is a time-based fight, not a kill-based fight. And if you listen to the music right now, at this point in the music, Kidman will say that quote, indicating that a Molotov guy is going to spawn alongside another enemy, which I believe is a sniper. But all you gotta do is use the barrel, and Kidman did my work for me, and she just shot the barrel. So, now, there's going to be a Molotov guy that will spawn, and this is a Molotov guy that will not go for you. He will go for your AI partners. So, do not worry about him. So, once again, pay attention to the music to know when the enemies are coming. On this next spawn, there are going to be 2 snipers. And you can easily kill them with headshots. If you want to fire your sniper rifle faster, use the weapon swap trick in order to cancel the animation of pulling back the bolt on the sniper rifle. And those guys are dead, and now we're just waiting. Once again, listen to the music. You might have noticed that before the snipers spawned, I shot those boxes. If you don't shoot those boxes, the enemies can use the boxes for cover, so you're going to end up wasting ammo trying to kill them. So that's why I use my pistol to get rid of the boxes. And the next spawn is about to occur. This next spawn, there is 1 guy with a Molotov who will attack you. There's going to be 2 guys that have dynamite, and then the sniper will spawn. The sniper will not prioritize you, but you have to get rid of that Molotov guy, otherwise he'll kill you. And this is important. You need to kill this guy, but do not try to burn his body. I'm going to use his dead body as a trap for this guy who's going to climb onto the bus. Once I kill him, the fight is practically over, because all you gotta do is just sit in the front of the bus and not move from that spot. You will not have to kill any enemies except for a Molotov guy. If you get a Molotov guy, you have to get rid of him because he can hit you when you're in the spot. And that right there was hilarious. That happens a lot during this fight, where for some reason, this Molotov guy runs off the ledge and kills himself. If that happens to you, then you gotta worry about the next Molotov guy. So all you gotta do is just shoot him in the face with a sniper rifle. But on this recording, he's in a stealth profile. He doesn't know where I am. So Kidman just takes him out for me, and he doesn't even get the chance to use his Molotov. So I'm in the clear right now. There won't be any more Molotov guys spawning in. And that sniper over there will not try to shoot me. He's just going to stand there and do nothing because he cannot see me. And what I'm waiting for right now is for Joseph to kill a couple of enemies up top, and then this will cue a dynamite guy to spawn in front of you. And when Joseph kills the dynamite guy, the fight is over. And you have just done a fight that many people consider very challenging that is actually very simple. and it rewards proper assessment of the situation, because knowing which enemies are going to prioritize you and knowing which enemies are going to prioritize your AI partners is key to doing this fight. This fight is really well designed. I absolutely love this sequence. This is definitely one of the best fights in this game, and every single fight on this game is phenomenal. I can't think of a single bad one. Not even the burning house sequence in chapter 6 is that bad, because there's actual design to that fight where it punishes you for killing all the enemies by spawning more enemies. Like, I would much rather do any combat encounter in this game than sequences like the cabin sequence from Resident Evil 4. And I'm not saying the cabin sequence from Resident Evil 4 is bad, it's just there are a couple design choices with the cabin sequence that kind of marred that sequence. And if you want to see my thoughts on the cabin sequence from Resident Evil 4, check out my walkthrough of Resident Evil 4. But here is the Heresy again, and in the beginning of the fight he will always do this move. And once again, you have to make sure you're aiming if you don't want to have the camera do all the work for you and kind of screw with your movement. So he has done 3 stomps that time, and I'm just going to watch what he does. And he is doing the drag move. Yeah, it's so easy to mistake this particular move for the move where he plants his claws in the middle of the bus, because of the fact that the startup animation is kinda the same. But thankfully I didn't make that kind of error, and I did this whole entire chapter without dying. And there are the maggots. I had to use an explosive bolt because I didn't have a grenade, but luckily for me, the maggots dropped a grenade. Hopefully by the end of this fight you will at least amass some grenades, because in chapter 13, the Keeper boss fight that takes place is made a lot easier with the grenades, because you can use the grenades to stun the Keeper and put him into a stunned animation that makes him completely vulnerable to shots. I mean, the explosive bolts will suffice, but the grenades do a lot more damage than the explosive bolts. And I know that that is the case, where the grenades can definitely help out, but I'm confident that the explosive bolts will suffice for chapter 13. And that is the end of the boss fight, and now I'm just going to skip ahead to the next encounter, which is a stealth encounter, and it's a really well-designed stealth encounter. There are a myriad of ways of approaching this particular stealth encounter, but my preferred method is to just use the pistol and the bottles, because there are a lot of opportunities to use the fire barrels around this area to kill off a bunch of enemies. And how this is going to work is I'm going to throw this first bottle near this fire barrel over here. It's random how many enemies will be lured. There are times when it's 3 enemies, and then there are times when it's 4 enemies. On this recording, I get 3 enemies, and I just made a mistake. I should have stayed near where I threw the bottle, because then hitting the fire barrel would be a little bit easier, and I would only have to shoot this fire barrel once. But because of the fact that I shot this fire barrel several times, I've caught the attention of one of the enemies, and he is a dynamite guy, and he spots me. It isn't so much of an issue, since the dynamite guys will only try to throw their dynamite, and dodging the dynamite is very easy, so long as you take into account the fact that the dynamite guys will always throw the dynamite in the path that you're moving towards, not at you. At the time of this recording, I assumed that if I stood close to the dynamite guy, and he prepped his dynamite, he would just start running after me, and I would be able to easily get rid of him, but that did not work. So instead, I just choose to finish this guy off with the pistol, and he is dead. I was very far away from the other enemies, so they did not hear me while I was fighting him. And now the strategy can resume as normal. I'm going to once again use a bottle to lure a couple of enemies near one of the fire barrels. And the fire barrel that I'm going to use is to my left, and there is the bottle. And I throw this bottle near the barrel, hoping that some of the enemies would come towards it. But at this point, the enemies are not in the right position to actually hear the bottle, so they don't come. And I'm going to have to use a third bottle in order to lure the rest of these enemies. And you might be thinking, this just seems like kind of a waste of time. Why would you want to do this method? It's because of the fact that every single enemy on this section either has dynamite or a gun. And as I've already mentioned before, the guns can be very dangerous if you let them be dangerous. And I'm not letting them be dangerous whatsoever. Stealth is so paramount when it comes to survival horror games. And this game embraces the stealth aspect really nicely. I mean, not to the same degree as the Evil Within 2, though, and even though in the Evil Within 2 there aren't any enemies with guns, the enemies on that game can be very aggressive, and they run very fast, and their attacks have a lot of range, so you have to make sure that you're using the stealth properly in that game in order to control them. And on the Evil Within 2, you have way more options at your disposal when it comes to the stealth. Like, for instance, with the last on position mechanic on that game, you could break line of sight for a split second and the enemies would lose you, which is how a last on position mechanic is supposed to work. And then you also have the inclusion of the cover transition, which allows you to move so fast on that game and close in on enemies. And while the Evil Within 1 doesn't have any kind of advantageous mechanic like that, it still doesn't change the fact that the stealth on this game is very powerful if you know exactly how to approach it. Every stealth section on this game is meticulously designed to allow for so many different options at your disposal. And such meticulous design is present in this stealth encounter because you have so many different options at your disposal. And right here, there's a bottle directly ahead of me, and there's another fire barrel, and there are 2 enemies left that I have to deal with. And I'm going to once again use the bottle from this position, and I'm going to throw it near the fire barrel, wait for the enemies to set up near the fire barrel, and I'm going to shoot it. And once you've killed these 2 enemies, the stealth encounter is practically done, and the only thing you gotta do at that point is disarm a couple of traps that might potentially screw you over in the upcoming combat encounter involving the turret. And then there's also going to be one guy that you have to deal with who will spawn when you reach a particular threshold of the room, and he spawns behind the truck that the sniper guy was standing on top of. The easiest way to deal with him is just use the third-person cover trick on the barrel that he's near, and it will just kill him. And that explosive trap right there, it's very important that you shoot that explosive trap before you proceed onward to start the upcoming combat encounter, because on the upcoming combat encounter, you have to run towards the guy who's on the turret, and you have to hug that side of the highway, and that trap can slow you down because, of course, you have to crouch, otherwise it'll kill you. And then you also have to shoot the fire barrel near the explosive trap, because there is a chance that the turret guy can shoot the fire barrel, and the fire barrel can hit you and kill you. So make sure you destroy those 2 traps before you proceed onward to trigger the checkpoint. And the combat encounter is going to begin the moment we pick up the hemostatic. And this combat encounter, much like the burning house sequence from chapter 6, punishes you when you try to favor the option of killing all the enemies. If you decide to get on the turret and start shooting all the enemies, you're going to cause additional enemies to spawn, and you do not want that. So at the start of this combat encounter, you need to make your way over to where that guy is. And there is a car blocking your way, so you're going to have to use this guy's turret to your advantage in order to get him to shoot the car and free the way. Make sure you have a full stamina bar before you decide to run. Now that the way is clear, start running. Hug the right-hand side, and then take cover behind this spot over here. Then you need to take cover behind that car directly in front of me. Grab the pistol ammo in case you need it. And then take this angle exactly like how I do it, so that the turret guy doesn't hit you when you decide to turn towards him. And what I'm going to do is, when he decides to ignite his dynamite, I'm going to fire an explosive bolt. And usually when the explosive bolt detonates, he drops the dynamite or he dies. This time, that didn't happen. So he's going to start coming after me, but it's fine. I've managed to lure all the enemies onto the turret, and now I'm going to run past them. You do not have to kill any enemies. If you want to try to kill the enemies, what you can do is lure them onto the truck, and then use a couple of freeze bolts on them. But that's completely pointless, because all I'm going to do is just mantle over the hood of the bus, and the enemies cannot get me, because the cars have completely blocked them off. And that is the end of that combat encounter. If you're wanting to go for the trophy, where you need to do this entire bus sequence without killing a single enemy, you have to kill all the enemies. You have to get on the turret, start killing the enemies, and then you have to kill the additional spawn that occurs when you decide to get on the turret. That's the only way to make sure that at the beginning of this bus sequence, you don't immediately hit a haunted. Because a couple of seconds into this bus sequence, you cannot actually move the bus, and an enemy will spawn in front of you during this period of time, and that's why you have to kill all the enemies so that he doesn't spawn. And once this bus sequence starts, you're in the clear. You're free to just drive around the enemies or just drive into them, do whatever, but the important thing is that this is the end of chapter 12. Stay tuned for the future chapters. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.